Thanks for joining us for another episode of Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. Flying solo for the intro today. We're going to be taking a look at the AFC East as our division preview series continues. We did the NFC East last week, so if you haven't had a chance to listen or watch that, go back and do it. We've got some great guests joining us as we're going to take a look at the Buffalo Bills with Matt from the UK Bills, the Dolphins, sadly no guest, but look, me and the guys cover the Dolphins, Scott Cobe from the New England, covering the New England Patriots for us from the LTS network, and we've got Frazer Campbell, the International Fan of the Year for the New York Jets, joining us to talk all things Jets. So we've got a great set of guests. Me, Joe, and Byron as always. And yeah, if you're watching and listening, you haven't followed us yet, please do so. Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover over on Spotify to be notified of new episodes when they drop. GTW_GTC on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And we're just going to get into it straight away. We're going to be joined by Matt from the UK Bills to take a look at the Buffalo Bills. So enjoy the episode and stick through it to the end. On to the first of our teams for our AFC East preview. And we're joined by a very special guest. We've got Matt from the UK Bills and the Red, White, and Buffalo Blues, which is a great name, podcast. Matt, you've been on before. You helped us with our Fans on the Clock draft back in April. Great to have you back actually live and in person. How are you doing, first of all? How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad. I think I've just been trying to recover from the weather we've had at least last week and all that, especially with my job being outside pretty much all day. So yeah, I just catching up on as much sleep as I possibly can to regenerate the batteries and obviously regenerate it ready for the up and coming season in a few months' time.
We're getting close. We're about 8 weeks away, or when this goes out. 7-ish weeks, or 7 weeks away when this gets released. And obviously, of course, we just mentioned big Buffalo Bills fan, and you run or are part of the UK Bills and the Red, White, and Buffalo Blues podcast. Tell us a bit about that, kind of how you got going with that, and what you guys have got coming up, and where we can watch and listen to it.
To be honest, I'm actually I've been running the UK Bills for, I think we're going into 11 years now. 2013 is when we started it with a bunch, about 10 of us and all that. The guy who initially set it up just seemed to vanish off the face of the earth. So I just stepped up, and ever since then I've just started growing that a long time, actually just going slowly but steady, trying to get up there. And the podcast itself, we're about 290 episodes in, and it was COVID, or just before COVID, that we actually set it up. So April 2019. So we've just done our 5th year of that, and going really strong. You can get it on all platforms. And over the time of me doing it, both the podcast and the and running the fan group, we've had so many interactions. We've had ex-players come on. We've had Aaron Williams. We've had Reed Ferguson, the current long snapper, Stevie Johnson, Steve Tasker. Obviously, when the Bills came into London the 2 years, both losses to Jaguars, which I hope if the third time we come over, we don't play the Jaguars. That may be something for your betting. With the Bills come back over, you put it on Jaguars to win that game.
Bills at Jaguars at Wembley.
But yeah, no, we had that. We had a fair few parties. I think the first year in 2015, we sold out what was the Pipeline Bar, and had a great bus tour and met a few good people. And last year, we had a boat tour and a boat party, bus tour, and just a fun weekend all the way through, meeting a load of new people and actually meeting a few players as well.
Nice. I think I need to change my allegiance and start following the Bills. That sounds like great fun.
Yeah, I've got plenty more to come. We've got a few meetups planned for this coming season. Venues are just being arranged. They're going to be Birmingham, York, and Newcastle. We have watch-ups in Manchester and London. So if you're anywhere in the country, we'll always try and find a place to get Bills on and meet all the Bills that we haven't met in the UK, or if you travel abroad, you've got Manchester and London as permanent bases for somewhere to watch the game.
Nice. Well, will you guys take a non-Bills fan visitor to one of these meetups?
We will, yeah. As long as it's supporting their Bills and not rooting for our enemies, we'll be all right.
I think we can make that work. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, so we don't play each other very often. So I think I can make that work. Excellent. We shall look forward to that. Make sure you're following at UK Bills and Red, White and Buffalo Blues podcast. The handles at UK_Bills and at RWBB_podcast. Go give the guys a follow now and make sure you go listening and watching the podcast as well. Matt, let's get into talking about the Bills then. Mm-hmm. First of all, we've got to start by having a bit of a quick overview of the 2023 season. Some quick headlines. Once again, shout out to Joe and in our team who's put the snappy graphics together. Appreciate it. Done a great job. 11-6, second in the AFC, but good enough to win the AFC East for the fourth consecutive year. It was looking perilous at one point, kind of 6-6, bit rudderless, but they won 5 in a row to win the division. Going and beating Miami to win the division in week 18. And Bills had a familiar feeling to end the season, eliminated by the Chiefs in the divisional round of the playoffs. In terms of the 2023 season, Matt, kind of, if you just like in a short sense or a couple of words, how would you sum it up for the Bills?
Roller coaster. Nice. I think it was more of a roller coaster. I mean, started off well, hit the bad patch, and then the last 6 games, bar the playoff game, it was just a upward trajectory. Then you hit the rock bottom when it comes to us playing the Chiefs, as always. It seems in the playoffs. Regular season we're fine, but in the postseason we just seem to falter at the last hurdle.
Yeah, deja vu again in terms of the Chiefs, and also just like the manner of the way the game goes as well. Yeah. I mean, when kind of the Bills were in that patch where kind of, they were 6-6, kind of, facing they were going to need to run the table to win the division and win the division and get in the playoffs potentially, because the way the rest of it was falling out, it looked like they could miss out completely. How much pressure do you think McDermott was under for his job, kind of, if he doesn't run the table, that he might leave in the offseason?
To be honest, most people you probably see, most Bills mouth you see on Twitter, probably holding McDermott accountable for this. I mean, I've had at times actually thought he was actually he's on loose time, but you've got a guy that since he's been here pretty much has taken us to a playoff every single season, given us a winning record. He's second in win percentage in Bills coaches, only behind Marv Levy. So you've got a coach who knows how to win and how to build that roster and that chemistry. I think the only thing that lets him down is the playoffs, and obviously the play calling since Frazer went, or even the last part of Frazer's tenure. And then last year he was calling the plays and he started to become a lot more vanilla. He came a bit more predictable, and he really didn't see any adjustments on that defense. But then you look at the offense under Dorsey, it was stable, then actually a bit erratic. Then under Joe Brady, it's just like a light switch hit, and we didn't focus solely on Diggs. We started moving it around a bit more. We got Josh involved more, and it's one where you got to give McDermott credit for keeping the team going, making the decision to get rid of Dorsey, I'm still on the fence a bit. This year is going to be a big year for him coming up. I still don't think he won't be on the hot seat till probably the following season, in my opinion.
It's like enough credit in the bank for kind of what he's done over the last few years. Yeah. Is there a sense? It feels like, because obviously it's a city, Buffalo, that's just craving a championship so much after going so close so many times, and then now kind of in this run after that kind of playoff drought was ended, being able to kind of get close again with this team. Do you feel, is there a sense that the window is closing for the Bills because they've had such a good team for the last 4 or 5 years?
No, I don't. This is what I think most Bills Mafia but actually get annoyed with the media about, especially your NFL guys, your NFL insiders, and all that. That they say, yeah, the window is closed for the Bills because they haven't been able to reach the game the last 4 years. They're losing their best players. They've lost White, Boyer, Hyde, Diggs, and all that. But as long as we've got Josh Allen, that window will never close. It may get a bit smaller, but it'll never close. And what we've seen in the last 5-6 games last year is is presuming what we're going to see coming up this year, and with the whole off season behind him to implement what he wants to do, regardless of Stephon Diggs gone and Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel being our wide receivers. You can see that Brady will find a way to feed everyone, as he says, and we can actually keep the window open.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on that. There's a big turnover in players this year. Probably list more than any, maybe any other time apart from the early year or possibly even the first year under Sean McDermott. Let's get into that then, because that's where we're at. Some off-season headlines, and the first one is want away Stephon Diggs traded to the Texans for a second. Obviously, Diggs was last year coming up to the last year of contract. Are you happy with what they got for Stephon Diggs? Do you think that's good value? Represents good value given kind of how it was going with Diggs and where he was at contract wise?
To be honest, I think it was all right with what we got. I mean, probably could have maybe pushed it a little bit more with an extra pick thrown in there. But for a guy of his age, and obviously the end of the contract, second round pick is good. And I think it's going to be I'm hoping it's going to be a low. No, I think it's the Minnesota second round that the Texans gave us. So in a way, you could almost class that as a very low first round pick. So what you got for him was adequate, and I mean, he's a polarizing player at the end of the day. Obviously, they show the diva aspect, and you see all these videos of him acting up and saying, "Oh yeah, he wants out. He wants out." He never showed that he wanted out. I mean, even at the London game, I actually got I was pretty much right on the front row, so right behind the benches, and I saw one video where he was actually getting angry, but yet I was actually seeing the same view, and I see him actually cheering. It's one of those, you want to portray someone as a villain, but I don't think anyone in the Bills Mafia holds anything against Stephon Diggs for what he wants to do.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think there's a bit around sometimes, I don't understand that kind of sometimes the way elite athletes behave in that frustration when they're not winning and not maybe achieving the results that they're expecting to, right? Because I imagine he's expecting them, the Bills, to kind of be pushing on and kind of get into that big game and things like that. So if you're a big football fan, you've seen a great example last night of Cristiano Ronaldo, kind of his behaviour, the real extremes of emotions. But it is interesting with Diggs, and be interested to see what he does at the Texans. We've just got Joe, just so I don't have to edit it out. We've just got Joe joining us. He's managed to end one of his work meetings early to join us. So Joe, Matt, Joe.
Hello.
Nice to meet you, Matt.
We're just talking off-season headlines for the Bills. We've just talked about Stephon Diggs. So any thoughts on that, you can keep to yourself, Joe. They brought in a raft of wide receivers, not necessarily to replace Diggs, but is there a potential that maybe some of those combined could kind of help and support the gap that Diggs and Gabe Davis as well have left? Claypool, Hollins, Samuel, and MVS all in free agency. Plus, you mentioned Keon Coleman in the draft, so that's interesting. We'll talk about that. One of my favourite moments of the offseason, Deion Dawkins' extension after his goodbye posts. So a bit of a troll, a bit of a prank, and then obviously signed on to stay, which was a cool moment in the off-season. And could it be termed, these aren't our words, they're Joe's words, by the way, could it be termed as a soft rebuild? Can Josh pick up the bill and carry the team to the promised land? You mentioned, Matt, already around the fact that the window will never close when you've got Josh Allen. just let's have a little bit of chat about that wide receiver room, just because it's not only Diggs that's gone, it's Gabe Davis as well.
Mm.
Do you see Samuel, I guess, is probably the one we'd expect to have the biggest impact of those free agents. Do you see a kind of combination of those guys being able to help replace that production?
Yeah, I mean, each of them got their own different skill sets. I mean, obviously Claypool, he's been hit and miss. He's still young, but he's got the speed, strength, height, and weight to him. MVS, he's actually come from the Chiefs, 2 years winning Super Bowl straight, so he's got that mentality in there. Curtis Samuel's jack of all trade and had statistically his best season under Joe Brady when he was in the when he was OC at the Panthers. And obviously Keon Coleman, everyone has their opinions on him. Obviously his production in college wasn't the best compared to others, but then he did have Jordan Travis thrown to him, and there was a few issues with him and his accuracy on that. But I think it's interesting how they built it. They've built, apart from Samuel and Shakir, the majority of the Bills wide receivers are all your 6'3" plus type guys. So it's hard to understand and actually figure out exactly what Brady has in plan, but he's got players that will actually look to block, and we know that he tried to get that run game going a little bit more. So he's brought in some blockers, and I think you'll see more red zone plays. I think all four of those, and Coleman will get in. It's just depending on how many wide receivers they take, but it's the one to look out for is Khalil Shakir. I think the last when Brady took over, you saw Shakir actually start to take off and became our leading wide receiver in that last stretch. And he's someone that's been training with Eric Moulds, so he's got a lot of experience, and he's going to be a breakout candidate for sure on this offense. So we've got a wide range of skill set on this wide receiver group, and obviously throw in Kincaid in there. You class him as tight end, but he can also be a wide receiver as well. You've got the weapons Josh Allen needs to actually to not forget about Diggs, to replace Diggs and Davis, and yeah, it is a soft rebuild. I think the whole season will be a soft rebuild, reset, especially with what's going on in defense as well.
Yeah, and with that, you made a good point about kind of Joe Brady might be getting to these big wide receivers to obviously help support blocking in the run game as well. James Cook obviously started to catch fire in the back half of the season. Can he carry on that momentum and progress to be kind of one of the best running backs in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, you've seen from scrimmage, is it from scrimmage or from rush last year, that he was pretty much third in the top 5. I think it was all-purpose scrimmage or anything. But he's a guy that under Dorsey wasn't really utilized well, and then once Brady came in, there was a few more plays they drew up that got Cook involved more, not just in the run game but the pass game. But the main contribution to that would be Aaron Cromer himself. I mean, Cromer has always had has got this O-line playing how they want. The fact they were healthy and they played a lot of pin and pull, which suited the run game of the Bills. I think it's going to be an interesting offseason. I think Cook can become that alpha and that number one, and obviously Ray Davis is another solid pickup in the draft.
Yeah, and let's get to that. Let's start talking about free agency in the draft. We've touched on it a little bit already. You mentioned Keon Coleman's name a little bit, but we talked to him in that last slide there. Additions: Samuel, MVS. Lyle Collins is an interesting one on the O line. The Cowboys, Bengals didn't quite work out the Bengals for him, but solid NFL tackle, and brings great experience. Kind of, to add to what is already a real solid O line. the losses are the key. I think that you've mentioned that maybe a lot more noise has been made about that. I think probably looking at it again from a neutral perspective, I think what I see is a lot of experience, particularly using both Mike Hyde and Jordan Poyer. I think as that combo, I know they took safety in the second round of the draft. There's Cobe, but kind of that tandem because they were so good and played so well together. But how does it feel from a defensive perspective that they've lost so many veteran players and so many people that have kind of known that system for a long time?
I mean, there's going to be teething. There's going to be teething issues. I mean, but then again, we've got McDermott who has coached this defensive back and was obviously a defensive back by trade when he played. So, and he's always been able to coach up. And you've seen that we took Teron Johnson. He was like a fifth round or seventh round, and developed him up to probably the best slot corner in the NFL. We had Dane Jackson who left to actually and got a decent contract with the Panthers. You got Christian Benford who'd actually come through and actually been as probably put in for the starter. Yeah, there's been a few misses. Elam, the jury's still out with him, but the fact that you've got a guy who knows how to coach secondary, and Bobby Babich, our new DC, is probably the best DC hire that we're going to have, and hopefully he'll be able to get cool plays. And it's just trying to have the patience with them. I mean, we got Mike Edwards from the Chiefs. And obviously Taylor Rapp came into his own in the last 4 games and playoffs. So the production hasn't dropped that much. The experience has, and obviously Micah Hyde, he hasn't fully retired. There's talk of him potentially coming back, or maybe come back if he's up for it. So whilst the experience and the leadership, especially in the secondary, is gone, the production is still there, and we'll have a whole season, hopefully next season, of both Milano and Bernard as our linebackers, which is probably one of our strongest positions. And then defensive line, let's hope Von Miller comes back to his pre-injury best, and we see another breakout from Oliver and Russo.
Yeah, I think that was key. I think maybe expectation, I don't know, others outside looking, maybe expecting too much from Von Miller. I think last year, so it was a huge injury, and it's. I mean, he's a freak athlete, isn't he? But even someone still at his age, it's very difficult to come over, quick, recover from a significant injury like a blown knee like that. So, be interested to see if Von Miller can come back in and to be able to kind of pick and choose when you use him as well. If you can get him back to his best, it'll be real interesting. And let's quickly talk about Keon Cobe, because I really do like him. I do like the pick. The question that I had and that I wanted to ask Buffalo Bills fan is, and when they're going to learn the lesson about trading with the Chiefs in the draft. So, the Bills were the ones who allowed the Chiefs to go and get Patrick Mahomes by making that trade. This time, the Bills have made the move. Obviously, you've got to think of yourself, of course, and I get that. But they've let the Chiefs go get Xavier Worthy with the trade. Do you think the Bills are going to be on the winning side of that trade in terms of making that trade, letting them go get Worthy, and then getting Keon Coleman with the 33rd pick?
I kind of think yes, because I mean we got a third round pick for it, which we used up on Dwayne Carter. So we got a starter and a strong squad rotated defensive tackle to eventually probably come in and actually be a starter. Out of that, I mean, Worthy, I wasn't high on. I mean, obviously, he's inflated by his speed and all that, and obviously, if he turns out to be a one-trick pony, and then we get Coleman, who's actually started to, he's a big body. He's actually he did run a slow time, but you never look. I always don't look at the 40 time. I look at the game time and the game speed and see what he can actually do. He can go up and make those difficult catches. He's a bit stronger with the strength compared to Worthy. I think it might take a few games for him to actually fully get up to speed with the NFL. But I think it's a trade that I think we probably come out on the better side of that trade. I was never a high guy on Worthy anyway. Obviously, I had Coleman ranked less than Worthy, but I think Coleman will be that guy who can actually come in and actually take that alpha wide receiver one position and become that player who go, yeah, we actually we traded down, we got an extra pick for him, and hallelujah, we actually did something better than Chiefs.
Well, hopefully it does work out, because it feels like they need it. They need one too. And who's kind of, a lot of moves. It was 10 players drafted in the draft. You touched on Ray Davis already as kind of that second punch with James Cook. Anyone else? I mean, anybody who maybe wasn't necessarily a big contributor last year, or anyone in the draft that you're expecting big things from that can be like a bit of an X factor for the Bills in 2024?
You've got to look at probably Carter, Davis, and Javon Solomon. I mean, Solomon from Troy actually was obviously the nation's leading sack player last year, and interestingly, he had more sacks in his college career than than Miami's Chop Robinson, who went in the first round, and we've got him in round 5. Yeah, he's a little bit of a tweener. He'd actually he's more of a pass rush type guy, but when you've got a guy like that you can actually fill in to rotate, he's a guy that you could get a bit of development and learning under Von Miller, get a lot more production out of him. Dwayne Carter, obviously a leader, a strong guy on the offensive front, and obviously Ray Davis. Obviously, everyone saw what he did for Kentucky against Florida, and the 200 and however many yards was it? 200. But he'll be the nice backup punch, and obviously you've got to have a shout out for the last pick for for Travis Clayton. I think the whole of the UK, especially Bills fans, were actually, especially on our group chat, were actually really excited about that one. Yeah, he's going to be he's probably going to be a practice squad, which we all expect him to be. But you come onto a team of Cromer who loves to mold these guys and actually get his hands full on that. And I think Clayton, with his experience in other sports and the and all the technique that comes with it, can really make a difference in a couple of years and hopefully become a full-time NFL guy.
Yeah, I mean, it will seem like Travis Clayton will get the opportunity the way kind of the IPP slot is on the roster, how it's going to be. That I think they will give him the time to develop and see what he's got, which is really exciting. It'd be great to again, another British player in the NFL would be nice to see, and let's hopefully he takes to it. But certainly, is I suppose the way kind of his athletic career has been as a player says that he should have a chance of transitioning. So fingers crossed for Travis, and hopefully he can stay a year or two at the Bills and develop. Joe, I'm conscious I've been taking up I've been asking all the questions to Matt. Do you anything for Matt before we move on and start looking at the odds and lines?
No, let's move on to the odds and lines. Let's get on to the betting.
Let's have a look. So yes, we at Heart Here, Good Teams and Great Teams cover our gambling show. That's our bread and butter. So let's have a look at kind of the lines for the Bills. Over under win total. So the line set at 10.5. Where are you feeling, Matt? Do you think the Bills are going to be over 10.5 wins, or do you think they can get to 11 plus wins, or do you think they'll be under 10 or less wins on the season?
I mean, this one's going to be difficult to really determine. I mean, I think that people who have actually, especially in the Bills Mafia side, have actually said that I've seen that they've got 13, 14 wins. I think this one will be a little bit more of a challenge this year. Obviously, we've got Ravens, we've got Texans, we've got the Chiefs, we've got the 49ers, we've got the Lions. All games where could go down to the wire, could be a one-score game either way. And then you've got 2 easy wins with the Patriots.
Feels good saying that, right?
It feels good saying that, yeah. Hopefully 2 decent wins against the Jets if Rodgers can last more than 4 plays without actually breaking anything. And then obviously the Dolphins, which I think I think they could almost be guaranteed wins for the Bills because we've owned them for the last God knows how many years with Josh Allen on there. So there's pros and cons on there, but I think I've gone through the schedule a couple of times and I'm seeing it's going to be over 10. So I think the Bills will probably get 11, maybe 12 wins this year with Ravens, Chiefs, possibly the Texans being, and maybe the Lions being the ones, or 49ers. I mean, those 5 are the ones that could really be our only losses on there and we win the rest. But yeah, I can see it being over 12, over 10.
Yeah, just heads up, Joe was a 49ers fan. But it's a nice finish. It's a nice finish this season. Well, they play Patriots in 2 of the last 3 games, and you don't know what you're going to get out of the Jets yet. So they finish off Patriots, Jets, Patriots. So, if they could be close to that, 10-win mark already and then have those kind of 3, that could get them over the line. Over 10.5 wins is plus 130, under is minus 160. So under is just favoured ahead of over, which is interesting. To make the playoffs, I think, nailed on again. Odds on to make the playoffs, minus 170, so well under even money. And to not make the playoffs, plus 140. Let's have the division winners, plus 160, so just short kind of 3-2 or 2-1. Conference winners, 7-1 or plus 700, depending on how you like your odds. And then to win the Super Bowl, 12-1 or plus 1,200. Is this the year, Matt? Can the Bills go and do it?
I would love to say yes. I would love to say that because I've actually I would plan to actually go over to Buffalo just for the Super Bowl, just to experience the atmosphere around there. But I can definitely see us divisional winners again for the 5th year. Conference winners. That's going to be tricky, but it's not. Nothing's ever not doable. Nothing's ever impossible on there. Stranger things have happened. It just depends on the momentum at the end of the day. I mean, it also depends if McDermott's calling the plays, then we may be in a bit of trouble. But it could go either way. I mean, the AFC is probably the strongest of the 2 conferences. Any one of 8 teams probably could actually, or 6 to 8 teams could actually win the conference and win the Super Bowl. So definitely say division winners. I'm hoping that we can get into at least the conference game. Super Bowl, I think possibly one more season.
Cool, one more to get going again. Interesting. I've got one last question for you. It's not related to specifically the team or the season, but if you do get yourself out to Buffalo, if they do make it that far, my question is, are you going to go jump through a table with Bills Mafia?
I think a couple of years ago, I actually said that if the Bills won the Super Bowl, I would. So potentially, if they actually, potentially there is a yes on that one. I mean, I say it depends on who I actually go with. I got a fair few guys at tailgate at the top dogs in the tailgating, so you never know. You may see a viral video in the next year or 2 of me jumping through a table somewhere.
Well, look, if the Bills do win it, if do get to Super Bowl and win it, look, we're going to harass you for that video. So, look, if you do, it needs to happen. Matt,
I'll make sure someone records it.
Nice. Matt, we appreciate you. Thanks for joining us to give us kind of a preview of the Bills. Just a reminder again, where can we catch the Red, White and Buffalo Blues podcast?
Yeah, you can catch us on all major, all your favorite podcast platforms. Obviously, we are going to get back into doing YouTube videos. We're just sorting out a few other things. So you find us at RWBB_podcast on do you call it Twitter or X now?
I'm still old school. I'm still Twitter, yeah.
And then you can find us UK_Bills. Obviously, as I said earlier, we've got events coming up, so obviously just keep an eye on that for those dates and venues. And then any Bills Mafia that are around, just come get involved, follow, interact. We've got hopefully a lot of stuff planned in the next year or 2. So it's exciting times, and hopefully we can get this the Mafia growing a lot more in the UK on the back of the last 5-6 years.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure we get to one of those events. We're in the north, so we'll be able to get to one of them. So we'll make sure we come along and come hang out with you guys, because no doubt it'll be a great evening. But thanks for joining us, Matt, and giving us your views on the Bills ahead of the season. We're going to hand over to ourselves as we take a look at the Miami Dolphins next up in the AFC East. Thanks again to Matt from the UK Bills there for in-depth look at the Buffalo Bills. We're going to have a look at the Miami Dolphins. It's just going to be the three of us for this bit. Myself, Byron, and Joe. Taking a look at the Miami Dolphins. Let's just delve into it. Let's have a quick review of the Miami Dolphins 2023 season. 11-6, finished second in the AFC East. They blew the AFC East, really. The Bills chased them down, and the Dolphins blew it. Tua managed to stay healthy after his problems in 2022 and led a very high-powered offense with a bunch of track stars. Defense was decimated by injury down the stretch. Is that the primary reason for letting the division lead slip? And they froze on the big stage versus Kansas City in a wild card game. Lost 26-7 in the frozen tundra that was Arrowhead Stadium. Joe, how would you sum up the 2023 season for the Miami Dolphins in a few short words?
I think you've already mentioned it. Blew it. They were miles ahead. I think there was a few games they let slip, and they're not the greatest road team. So to lose that, number one in the AFC East, I think cost them at that point. I don't know if they would have gone much farther, because they would probably have to go on the road at some point. But yeah, I think they just blew it, because all that offense to begin with was incredible, and then all went downhill with the injuries and all of that. Just feel like they're a sunshine team.
Sunshine team. Yes, they had the chance. They had several chances to close out the division. Really, it was down the stretch, wasn't it? Where it was, I think the key game. I think for me, probably that Titans one on Monday Night Football, where they were 2 scores up, 14 points up with 4.5 minutes to go, and Will Levis managed to drag the Titans back to win that game, 28-27, right at the end. I think that was the one. You win that game, and you end up winning the division. They got hammered by the Ravens after that, and of course lost the decider. They had another chance to clinch it against the Bills at home on Sunday Night Football in Week 18. I think that Titans one was the killer, because they should never ever have lost that game. Let's have a look at the off-season headlines. This pun is great. Waddle into the bank for $84.75 million.
These are great.
Yeah, he's great. New contract for Waddle. Tua B or not Tua B a new contract? That is the question. So Tua, still due an extension or new contract. No movement on that as yet. Well, other quarterbacks have. Key defensive pieces are lost in free agency, but Odell Beckham Jr. is back in Miami to jump back on the boat. Fangio out. Can Anthony Weaver some magic? Very good, Joe. I suppose lots of big ones, but the Tua contract. Miami are kind of not quite in the same boat as the Cowboys are with Dak, but in terms of they just sort of seen the other quarterbacks and the other contracts get done, and they're kind of there. Do you think there's a gap in terms of what Tua thinks he's worth and what Miami thinks he's worth, and how do you see this being resolved?
I don't know. There's been that much discussion around the contract in terms of negotiations. I think it's one of them. It's going to get done. It's going to be around Trevor Lawrence. If Tua thinks he's worth significantly more than that, then they're probably going to have an issue. I don't imagine Miami are trying to lowball him much under that. It just feels like it does feel somewhat automatic, just the way the quarterback market goes. If they want to play out this year, I'd kind of be surprised. Just again the way it goes, and you want to have faith in your quarterback, and you want to show faith in your quarterback. You don't really want to get in a Kirk Cousins situation like Washington did and then Minnesota did, of just year to year, because doesn't invoke good spirit in your quarterback, obviously. I think it'll get done some point in the coming weeks before the season starts. And I think it'll be around Trevor Lawrence's money, yeah.
Excellent. Cool. Good stuff. Right, let's have a look at the key moves. key moves for the Miami Dolphins. Free agency additions, we mentioned OBJ as another weapon for that offense. Shaq Barrett, Kendall Fuller, Jordan Brooks. Key losses we mentioned, and Joe referenced it in the slide. Christian Wilkins off to the Raiders. Van Ginkel, Vikings. Howard gone. How big of a dent is it to lose those players defensively?
Well, I mean, the entire premise of the 2023 season going down the stretch was they lost pieces on defense and they couldn't stand up with it. Christian Wilkins is such a disruptive, constant threat on that D line at D tackle. Van Ginkel was great down the stretch last year. Xavier Howard, one of their impactful DBs. It's tough to replace all that. Kendall Fuller and Jordan Brooks, Kendall Fuller especially, is not a, he's not a top tier cornerback right now. Shaq Barrett as well. These are players who've been around a little bit. Salary cap kind of holds you to certain standards where you just have to bring in what you can bring in. Chop Robinson on the edge, I think, is a good player coming in. But yeah, I think it's just going to be a piece together and hope for better luck with injuries this year. I don't think they've improved defensively, player for player, certainly. I think Wilkins, he ended up getting such a bag from the Raiders because he is such a, he's one of the best D tackles in the league. That is not easy to replace, and they haven't.
Well, I think we've got Nathan Gallimore. Neville Gallimore, I should say.
Yeah.
While we lost Andrew Van Ginkel, they've tried to replace him by name anyway, at least by going for, they've got, obviously, Ezekiel Van Den Berg. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a cool name, just big shoes to fill.
Big shoes to
Not
fill.
just a big name to fill.
Have they done enough on the D-line? So obviously, there's also Calais Campbell that's come in as well. It was signed a bit later on or more recently. Chop Robinson, they've got Mohamed Kamara as well in the draft. Have they done enough? You've got Bradley Chubb coming back as well off a bad injury. Phillips to come back off injury as well. Have they done enough, do you think?
I think it depends on the defensive coordinator as well, because obviously there's been some bad blood and some press about the Vic Fangio and how people did not like it there, and there's been a few headlines. So I was surprised, when I was looking at the free additions, how many veteran players have got on defense. It felt like they didn't do anything splashy, but to get players like Shaq Barrett and Kendall Fuller, I just think it increases the floor. And the big players that still got to come back is how they do come back from injury. It's always a coin toss how long it's going to take them. But if the defensive coordinator works better for their fit, I think it can still improve, because it just felt like the Vic Fangio experience just didn't work from the beginning, and it feels like it wasn't what it was meant to be when they came into the season last year. So I think that's a big thing about it. Obviously, you can't replace some of the big stars have lost who went for big money, but at least they've got some veterans in there who are not taking millions and millions of dollars out their salary cap to have to plug in, and at the end of the day, with that offense, you really just need an average defense to probably help them out, because they're going to blow teams out. But how will that affect them down the stretch? I think that's the question.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. Are they going to have progressed, or do you feel they've progressed in terms of? I see the Miami Dolphins very similar to how the Cowboys have been the last couple of years in terms of that, being able to bully and hammer the lesser teams, and then as soon as they come up against anybody decent, they struggle, and the good defenses are able to kind of shut down this high-powered offense. Is there enough to change that, or does it feel very much like 2024 might be similar in that, where they beat up on bad teams and then struggle against good teams?
That's more how I feel about them again. I just don't think there's been enough change. Robert Hunt as well at guard is, it's another position where they couldn't really do with weakening, and they've lost the starter there as well. Lost the center as well, Williams, I think it is. And I don't think they're in a better position than they were a year ago. I think they've just lost players. I think, again, free agency, you're hindered by what you've spent already and where you've spent. Tyreek Hill's on big money, Jalen Waddle's on big money, Jalen Ramsey's not on nothing. There's only so much spending to go around, and they need to pay. I presume they're going to pay Tua as well. I don't think they've done enough to shake it. I think they're still going to be a team who's in contention to win double-digit games, but are they a team who's going to go and win in Buffalo, New York, cold place in December?
And I'm guessing that's what the issue is with Tua, that like he has this reputation. I don't think he'll get the Trevor Lawrence money. Oh, I don't think Miami wants to give him that. I think because Trevor Lawrence has got this law about him being, the number one pick, the new savior, the everything. And for some reason, Tua has this reputation which is not as high as that. So I think that hinders him, which, it could. I don't think it's right, but there is like a reputation around Tua. So I'm always curious how they're going to play this, because it's not like with like the Dak contract where it's been in the media nonstop and how it's going to work. There's nothing really being said about the Tua contract and any disagreements and where they're going with it. So I wonder if they're just going to push it down the line. And again, is this year going to determine where they go? But it's also, again, another one of them teams where what you're going to do better. I think that's always the tricky part when you have quarterbacks who are good, but they're not in the top 5 kind of quarterback. It's always that like in between where we see with, like you said, Kirk Cousins and a few others.
Yeah, interesting to see what Miami do. Also, there was I'd seen the list of their undrafted free agents, and there was my favorite one, cornerback. I don't know if he's going to make the roster, out of Louisville, Storm Duck. What a great name that is.
Hopefully he's all he's cracked up to be.
Excellent. We should start putting canned laughter in, laughter track into.
Nobody needs it. We can't.
I was curious, Paul, because obviously I think you had Patrick Portico in the first round when we did our draft. Were you happy with the pick with the Dolphins taking there? Because he was pretty low in the second round, and he's going to be behind some experienced players. So do you think he'll be starting, or do you think he's going to sit behind like the Terrence Armsteads and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I suppose the difficulty is with Terrence Armstead is that the injury problems, isn't it, around that we've seen him have. So I guess potentially he might get on the field a bit quicker than that. But yeah, no, just thought there was a sort of a lot of late buzz around him in the week leading up to the draft for Patrick Paul at Houston. So yeah, I don't know. I think we'll see. So where did he go? 55. Yeah, sort of middle to end at second round. Second round. Wow, I think that was the first round all of a sudden. Yeah, I thought he might have snuck in for maybe like one of the teams desperate to take a tackle when there'd been a big run on them. But yeah, we'll see. I think that's the unit that's going to be key, and did a lot better last year and supported Tua not getting banged up as much, as well as in releasing the ball a bit quicker as well. But yeah, maybe a development one, and we'll see, because I guess you've got the durability issues with Terran Armstead. Also, he's 11 years down the line. How much longer has he got left?
Yeah, and obviously getting Jalen Wright, another track star, to just go with that offense. It doesn't help for fantasy wise for the Dolphins. Like, which running back do you choose, and is he going to be the new H-Chain? And H-Chain doesn't get as many touches, and how does Mostert fit into all that? So it's going to be exciting to see how McDaniels actually use them all. And yeah, I feel like there could be some, against lesser teams, some big scores again where everyone's putting up points.
Well, we saw the 70 against the Broncos, didn't we, in week 3 last year? Who knows if they can go do it again?
It feels a little, I know McDaniels from the Shanahan tree. It feels a little bit Shanahanian pre-CMC of like, it'll be most at week 2. It'll be, HM week 3 and 4, Jalen Wright week 5, most at week 6 and 7. Just like, who's fit? Who's going to just run the ball this week? And I think it's going to be rotation, but I think it might be more game to game than like series to series. And Jalen Wright is just another track star. I think you used that term at the start there, Joe. Exactly what he wants, and I think it suits him well through November.
Yeah, and it's also a Shanahan move to choose a running back in the 4th or 5th round every single year. Absolutely, it's guaranteed.
Yeah. And then the round 7 one outdoes them.
We'll move on. Let's flip on to the odds and lines, because I want to get into this one and get your thoughts on over unders 9.5 for the Dolphins for win total. favoured to be over -130, just under is even money or +100. To make the playoffs, again, they're favoured -150. Odds on to make the playoffs. And to not make the playoffs, +120. So only just. The schedule's interesting because I don't think they have many bad teams. Obviously, Patriots, they play twice.
Yeah.
The weaker teams on there are maybe the Titans, the Cardinals.
Maybe the Raiders.
And maybe the Raiders, but I don't know. The Raiders down the back were good. They've got a lot of just tough games.
Yeah. And there's another one where I, done my playoff predictor. I'm at 9 wins, so 9.5 is a perfect number because I certainly won't be confidently betting either direction. Well, I'm certainly going to confidently project the over if I'm at 9. But I'd struggle. +100 is, it's not enough to bet a season-long bet on when I have them at 9 because they could easily sneak an extra win somewhere. And if all goes right, they could get to 11 or 12. But yeah, I'm not going to be betting the over. I just, like I say, I have them at 9, so it's a real fine line.
And I think that the last 6 games do look a bit rough. So you got the Packers, then the Jets, then at Texans, then against 49ers, then at Cleveland, and back at the New York Jets. It's I think it depends how the Jets go. Obviously, that's always up in the air. It feels like with the Jets, but if they're the team we think we're going to be, is it going to be another one of them where they've got 9 or 10 wins going into the final 6 weeks, and then it's disaster again, and the Jets take them this time? But it's some tough games, especially like at Cleveland is always like a tough.
Yeah,
it's going to be in the winter again. You're going to defense who bullies teams.
Wind swirling.
Yeah, so that's a rough. So I think they're going to start off hot, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, this is." I think it's going to be very similar to last year. I feel like you said, the squad feels very similar. I feel the schedule is going to be very similar, where they go on a hot start, kicking some teams' ass, and then what the final 6 is going to see where they go from there. Because that is a tough stretch down the.
It feels like they're going to need to rack up a lot of wins early, doesn't it? Because going to Green Bay last week in November, going to Cleveland last week in December, going to New York first week of January. Yeah, it feels like it's going to be tough. And has that team developed that toughness? We'll find out.
And they have the bye week 6. 3 of their first 5 are at home. Mm-hmm. So then the rest of the season, more on the road than off the road, and it's an early bye. Those two things I don't think combine well for Miami. Excellent. On what we've seen in the last few years, certainly.
Right, let's run the table for the odds. Division winners +180, so just short of 2-1. Conference winners 10-1 or +10, +1,000. I'll get there. Super Bowl winner 22-1 or +2,200. How far realistically, guys, can the Miami Dolphins go?
I think a successful year will be winning a playoff game. I think that's as far as they go. They can win the division, I think, because I think the Bills have regressed as well. I think the Patriots are not in contention, and I have the Jets as favourite for the division, but it can all go wrong for the Jets as well. We haven't seen Aaron Rodgers throw a ball for a long time. We haven't seen him throw a ball on this team. If Miami get to 11 wins, that could well be enough to win the division. And then if they get a favourable matchup in January, they can certainly win a playoff game, but I think that's about as far as they go. I don't think they're competing with the Chiefs or the Ravens, or probably any of the AFC North teams on the road if it gets to it. Truthfully, maybe Pittsburgh, but I don't think the conference winners at 10-1, and obviously not Super Bowl winners either at 22-1. I don't hate the price of Super Bowl winners if it all goes well, but I certainly wouldn't be betting it. I think that's about the price it should be.
Yeah, I think they're a team who could win the Super Bowl. I don't think they will. I think that they've got the stars and the players to go on one of them runs where, suddenly, the Dolphins, especially if they get the number 1 seed and they can play hard. But I just don't think they have that. And I think, again, being in the AFC is the tough one. If they win the NFC, you're like, okay, they'll be one of the favourites. But I think with the teams surrounding them, I just don't see them winning it. So, I think they'll make the playoffs, but I think it'll be an early exit as last year.
Yeah, I think you're right. That success would be if you can win a playoff game. It's 24 years, since they won a playoff game. So, you need to get that. You need to break that, I think, and they've only been in the playoffs 5 times since then. Lost all 5 times in the wild card round. So, yeah, they really just do need to get that proverbial monkey off the back. Right, anything else to add for the Dolphins before we head across to our next team, which is the Patriots? No. Cool. Right, on to the new. I said Neil said New York Patriots. New England Patriots. We've got Scott Cobe joining us, returning guest to Good Teams and Great Teams cover. So yeah, let's chat with Scott about all things going on in Foxborough. Awesome. That's our look at the Dolphins, and we move on to the New England Patriots in our AFC East preview. And we're joined by a very special guest, making a long-awaited return to Good Teams and Great Teams cover. We're joined by our man on the ground in Boston, Scott Cobe. Welcome. Thanks for coming back, and thanks for being our Patriots expert for our division preview. How's it going, Scott?
It's going great, and thanks for having me. I certainly appreciate this. Had a lot of fun last year, so I'm looking forward to this greatly.
Awesome, good stuff. I can't believe it's been 12 months since we did that AFC East preview last year. It comes around quick.
It
Scott,
does.
Scott, you're a busy man. When you're not celebrating the Celtics championships, you're a face across all of the LTS network. What have you got coming up? What shows are you on, and where can we catch it all?
Let's Talk Sports Show tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. For everybody out there to watch. It'll be myself, Sam, and possibly Tanner Dawson holding it down. We'll have Jim Behringer and Jonathan Grishman on tonight. Usually the Let's Talk Major League Baseball is Wednesday night, but because of the holiday this week, that got bumped, obviously. So those 2 shows I'm the biggest on, and then I make guest appearances on the wrestling show and any other show that they want me to come on. So.
Nice, cool. Make sure you go and follow in the LTS network over on YouTube. Follow Scott as well at SJCobe1 as well, available on Twitter as well. And let's get into talking about your New England Patriots, Scott. Rough year last year, so let's start there. There's no, before we can preview 2024, we have to have a little bit of a look at 2023. Joe was telling us before when he was building the view here, he couldn't quite fit all the headline things that came out of 2023 on there, so we'll do our best. Patriots finished 4 and 13th, finished bottom in the AFC East for the first time since 2000. Belichick's worst ever season as an NFL head coach. New England's worst since 1992. Finished joint last in scoring, did not score more than 30 points in a game. First time since 1991. I missed out on the playoffs for the 3rd time in 4 years. Scott, rough year, and one certainly not used to having in New England for a long time. If you were to sum up the season in like a couple of words or a short sentence, how would you sum up 2023 for the Patriots?
I'd say very disappointing. I mean, 13 losses, yes, but it's the way they lost games, and it's an un-Belichick, like, of course he's not here anymore. He was shown the door, but it's an un-Belichick like season. 4 and 13, first of all, is un-Belichick like, but the way you lose games. And Mac Jones was just not Mac Jones, not the guy we needed to have a quarterback. So,
yeah, some rough losses, rough games, and it almost felt like each week it was something new, a new low for Belichick or a new low for the last 30 years. Some crazy stats that came out of 2023 when you think of the New England Patriots. Shut out twice, failed to score 20 or more points in 12 games across the season. And like I say, for the first time in all, just over 30 years, failed to score 30 points.
Yeah.
Belichick took his biggest loss at the Cowboys early on in the season in week 4. And the one that stood out to me the most, which is a positive stat defensively, 3 weeks in a row or 3 games in a row, they kept teams to 10 or less points, lost all 3 games.
Could not win.
Could not win those games on keeping teams to 10 or less points. Patriots unders for a run were a hot ticket for sure in those weeks. What was the moment for you? Where did you know? At what point in the season did you know this is going to be real bad, Scott?
I think when Ramondre Stevenson went down, and you had to turn to Ezekiel Elliott, who averaged 3.2 yards per carry, somewhere in that vicinity. You kind of knew with no running game. That's what Belichick put his hat on last year is we're going to play defense and we're going to run the ball with Ramondre, and we're going to try to grind out wins and make it as tough as possible. And when Ramondre went out, the depth of the running back room took a huge hit, and you didn't have that bell cow running back. And Belichick could never, ever adjust to Ramondre not being out. Mac Jones is not the type of guy that's going to throw for 300 yards game after game after game. He just was not that type of quarterback. So that was the key. That's when I knew we were in serious trouble for not winning more than 5 games.
Yeah, as you mentioned, obviously, Belichick's gone, end of an era in New England. Jared Mayo, the new head coach. Matt Jones gone, traded to Jacksonville. Expecting to see a new quarterback in Drake May, which we'll get to. The Belichick empire has fallen, as Joe's put it. The good one I wanted to ask you about this, Scott. The dynasty, or the dynasty, I don't know which way we say it, but the dynasty was on Apple TV across kind of the off-season. I assume you've seen it, and kind of what were your thoughts and kind of how it was put together and maybe the shots at Belichick and...
That's the thing. I mean, nobody remembers what Bill Belichick did for this organization. When he came in, they were not a good team. And what he did with the drafting of Brady, who nobody knew at the time was going to be great, and the drafting of, the subsequent draft picks that he had after, nobody remembers that after 20 years, what he did. So that dynasty series was just a shot at Bill Belichick over and over and over again. And I don't think it was fair to him. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's not coaching anymore. And I don't think he'll ever coach again, because, when owners look at that, they say, we didn't know that was going on behind the scenes. We don't really want that in our organization. So they go elsewhere to look for a coach. So it did Bill Belichick no favors. And now, as you saw with the Tom Brady retirement ceremony in New England, he's the most beloved coach that New England's ever seen, because he's getting standing ovations and flowers and everything else. So at the time he wasn't, now he is. And that's what happens when a guy leaves. So
did you see, and do you feel like maybe the relationships have been repaired a little bit? We've seen a bit more of Belichick in terms of, like you mentioned, at the retirement ceremony, he was part of the Tom Brady roast. We've seen Belichick on McAfee's show a few times. Do you feel like, as a Patriots fan, do you see those relationships maybe that have started to build bridges and repair now?
I think the Brady-Belichick relationship, definitely, because those two things, the roast and the Tom Brady retirement, those were Tom Brady productions. He wanted there, whoever was there, that's who he wanted there. The Belichick-Kraft relationship, that's going to take time, I think. I don't think there really is a relationship right now between those two. So, but Brady-Belichick are probably on the firmest of grounds that they've been on in years. So,
the Patriots stuck with the plan and hired Jared Mayo as head coach. It felt like we knew that was going to happen a long time before it did.
Yeah.
Mac over in the quarterback room. These are great, Joe. Thanks. Mac over in the quarterback room with Jones out and Drake May in. May he be the best quarterback drafter? Does he have to do an awful lot for that to happen in New England?
Yes,
and re-signed a lot of players. So let's start with, I suppose, the coach. What are your thoughts on kind of Jared Mayo as the head coach coming in? That's not building, obviously, but
yeah, as you said, Paul, that it was long rumored. I mean, that was the succession. It was going to go from Belichick to Mayo, and Vrabel was out there, and they didn't even look at Vrabel. They just went with Mayo. So you knew kind of that's what Kraft wanted from the very beginning, is Mayo to succeed Belichick, and sure enough, he did. The coaching staff is interesting. There's a lot of veteran coaches on that staff, from Alex Van Pelt, to the defensive coordinators, to, Bill O'Brien was there. Gerard Mayo didn't want him there. He didn't want any Belichick holdovers for the most part. And he just built his own coaching staff. And it's a lot of veteran coaches, a lot of guys that on the staff that can get as much out of the talent as they can get. So I'm excited for the coaching staff. Maybe not so much this coming season as we'll get to, but I think in the next 2 or 3 years, I think that coaching staff, if they're intact together, they can grow with the players, and maybe just maybe they can build a winning culture back in New England again.
Were you shocked that they didn't give Vrabel a bit more consideration, considering he'd done a relatively good job in Tennessee? Obviously, he'd been a Patriot for a decent chunk of his playing career. Was very familiar with the Patriot way as it was. And were you surprised that they maybe didn't consider Vrabel more in this hiring process?
I'm surprised they didn't give Vrabel, after they hired Mayo, a consultant's role, where Mayo could bounce ideas off of a veteran head coach in Vrabel for a year, even for a year. I mean, you saw with the Celtics, Jeff Van Gundy was the guy that was brought in as the quote-unquote guy that Missoula could bounce ideas off of. So I'm really surprised Vrabel didn't get a consultant's job. Now, this time, he can still get it. But as of right now, that shocked me a little bit that Vrabel was not considered for just even a minor role in the coaching staff. So,
yeah, I was certainly surprised that Vrabel managed to make it through the kind of the hires around this time and not get another job. But yeah, it certainly seemed odd to me. Matt Jones gone to Jacksonville. Drake May from North Carolina. What are your thoughts? They took May with the number 3 overall pick in the draft. What are your thoughts kind of on Drake May coming in, and what are you hoping to see from him, and what do you think he can do for the Patriots?
I really wanted Jaden Daniels. I'm not a Washington Commanders fan right now. That's the guy I wanted. I knew he wasn't going to get to 3. Drake May is probably, with McCarthy, probably a project. So I don't think you're going to see Drake May start the season with the Patriots starting as their quarterback. I think it's going to be Jacoby Brissett. And I think what Mayo has said over the OTAs and in early is he has a lot of work to do. Now, we've seen them cut down all of a sudden come training camp. He's the number 1 starter. Like Mac Jones, nobody expected him to, but he ended up being that. I think the smart plan that Mayo has in his mind is we're going to start with Brissett, and we're going to work on Drake May's mechanics, his footwork. Mayo said in a presser that his footwork needed a lot of work, so that's not there yet. So I think you're going to see Jacoby Brissett start for the first at least 3 to 5 games. And as soon as Drake May can get the mechanics down and, reading the coverages, reading the defenses, and all that other stuff, that's when I think you'll see Drake May start at quarterback. I think Mayo knows in his mind this is going to be one of those years where we're going to win between 4 and 7 games, hopefully. So I think Drake May will be slowly brought along where he won't be just thrown in to the fire and said, okay, kid, go do it. So that's why they signed Jacoby Brissett, I think. So.
Excellent. Cool. Well, Joe, let's flip it over. Let's start having a look at the rest of kind of the free agency and draft moves that the Patriots made in the offseason. Again, which were kind of the moves to you, Scott, which are the moves that you're excited about from a free agency perspective, and any particular guys that left the building that you really wanted them to keep hold of?
I think the Brissett one was a plan in place. So I'm excited to see back in New England again. He was a Patriot before. I'm excited to see what he can do in the first couple of games. Schedule is tough, but I'm excited to see what he can do. The Antonio Gibson signing to me is a huge signing. He replaces Zeke Elliott, younger guy. You know what his role is going to be. He's a pass catching back. And that's what his role is going to be, a 3rd down and a 2-minute hurry up offense type of guy. So I'm excited to see what they do with Gibson. And Brissett's been known in his career to dump it off to running backs. So I think Antonio Gibson can get between 40 and 50 catches this year. So that one excited me a lot. The one that it's anybody on the offensive line right now, because when you do put Drake May in, you need to have a really good offensive line, to protect them. So I think the loss of Trent Brown could be a big loss for them, and who they get to replace him. In terms of their draft, they needed wide receivers. They needed Drake May. they needed offensive linemen, so they hit all those in the draft. So Mayo had a plan in place, and he stuck to that plan, as one of the blurbs said earlier. And he knows what he wants to do, and that's really, really good for a young coach that knows what they need to do and want to do. So,
yeah, trying to kind of build that identity,
Yeah.
early on and run it through. Byron, do you any of the key kind of moves that kind of from a free agency or draft perspective that kind of exciting you? And I suppose that's the thing, right? It might be a very transitional year for the Patriots this year, but anything that's kind of sticking out that's exciting you from a free agency or draft perspective, guys?
Truthfully, nothing that Scott hasn't already mentioned. I love the Antonio Gibson signing as well. I've always been a bit of an Antonio Gibson stan. He's explosive. In fantasy, he's actually had more top 12 finishes than you'd probably think over his career. He's actually, I really like him. I think Zeke was a plodder last year. I'm surprised, I don't know what number you said, Scott, 3.2 yards. I'm surprised he was that high, but he had a few biggish plays, but he was a liability in pass blocking, everything. I would hate him to be my team's running back. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Dallas bringing back. That's great. And yeah, you touched on Alex Van Pelt earlier. Jacoby Brissett outplayed Deshaun Watson under Alex Van Pelt. And I think only good things for Hunter Henry in this scheme. I think Austin Hooper he's washed, but is a usable body. I think that two tight end scheme might come out a lot because they can both block and they can both go downfield and catch the ball. I love what they've done in the draft. Again, they don't have enough picks to fix this team, but the defense is already really good. Even in a lost year last year, the defense was really good. So, yeah, I like Drake May, and I like that he doesn't need to start. Brissett is absolutely fine. Brissett was good enough to start over Sam Howell last year, a lot of the thing. But I understand why Washington, again, wanted to look at Sam Howell and see what they had. It's hard to be optimistic about this year for the Patriots, but that totally buys into why Drake May gets time to sit and learn. And I think, Javon Baker in the 4th round, I think is a real good upside play for the Patriots. I think Polk and Baker could have went in the same range, really. Both high upside receivers. And there's a lot of number 2, number 3 types in that room. But, sometimes you just need to get a lot of volume in when they're not going to overpay for Calvin Ridley. And in that case, you end up with KJ Osborne, you end up with Polk, you end up with Baker. And I think that might work out best for them in the long run. And, maybe take a shot at T. Higgins next year, try and overpay as it will be for number 1 for Drake May next year when there wasn't really one this year. I think they've, I was really harsh on the Patriots going into 2023 season. And this year, I think they've done really well with what they have available. I don't think they could have done too much more, truthfully.
Yeah. I think the one name that you don't see on there, the re-signing of Kendrick Bourne, was huge for them. He's a veteran leader in that locker room. And 2 years ago, you saw what he could do on offense. So Drake May, when he starts, is going to need a guy like that. And Kendrick Bourne can be that type of guy that takes the wide receiver core by the throat and says, let's go, guys. Let's do the job that we're all paid to do. And I think he's going to have a really good year this year, Kendrick Bourne. Not in terms of 100 catches and 1,500 yards, but I think he can get 1,000 yards, and I think he could get 75 catches this year. So,
yeah. I mean, just a quick question. Oh, sorry, Joe. Go on. You go first before I ask.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say the re-signing of some of the players like Josh Uche and Mike because when free agency came around, it felt like they'll be gone. The Patriots got somehow replace them, and it feels like. So I think Josh Uche took less money to come back to the Patriots. So obviously that helps with that defense being so good. And you've got a few guys like Gonzalez who started off great and he was looking like he could be, defensive rookie of the year and got injured. So you've got players coming back where that was their strength was the defense. So I think that's a huge positive as well because it felt like they're going to lose some of the players who would have actually managed to develop the last few years, but they managed to keep a few of them. So I think that was good business as well.
Absolutely.
Scott, just a bad difficult, but give us kind of who you think maybe an X factor player for the Patriots outside of a quarterback. So I guess May if he's going to play later on in the year. But who do you think maybe someone that we haven't really might not talked about who might be kind of a big X factor player for the Patriots in 2024?
I'll give you one. I'll give you 2 on offense, 1 on defense. We mentioned him already. Antonio Gibson for me at the running back position. He could be the type of guy that can spell Ramondre and not put the huge load on Ramondre that he was going to have last year. I think Ramondre is going to be the first and second down back, and I think Antonio Gibson's going to come in and be the third down back and hurry up back. So I think that will help Ramondre stay healthy, and I think it will also help the Patriots move the chains when in a tough spot. The other guy is Kendrick Bourne. I think you need that leader that's been in New England and can help the younger guys along, and I think Kendrick Bourne can do that for the wide receivers. In terms of the defense, I think it's Matthew Judon. I mean, I know he got injured last year, another guy that lost half a year to injury, but he can rush the passer. He can drop back in coverage. He's that type of guy that on defense can be a difference maker. And if he can be that difference maker on defense, like I think he can, I think the Patriots on defense can hold teams to 14 to 17 points every game, every single game, and give the offense a chance to win games in the end, in the fourth quarter. So those three guys are very important and all are X factors to me.
Nice, good stuff. Let's have a look at the lines then. Now, Scott, you're a betting man as well, so that's the perks of good teams and great teams to cover. So let's have a look at the line first. So Patriots win total line is 4.5. So it's minus 160 for the over, plus 130 for the under. How are you feeling? Where do you think? How many wins do you think the Patriots can get to in 2024?
I think they're at 4, and I think when you look at that schedule, here's the first 6 weeks: at Cincinnati, home for Seattle, at the Jets, at the 49ers, home for Miami, home for Houston. Where is the win coming out of those 6 games? And then they're going to London to play Jacksonville. Then they get the Jets. They got the Rams. They got Miami again. And then they got Buffalo twice to basically close out the year. So it's going to be a tough schedule. So I'm looking at 4 wins for the Patriots this year. I don't think they can get any more than that. And they could very well easily get 2 or 3. So I'm looking at the under for that. I strongly would go under plus 130 because I just don't see the wins coming for them. In terms of making the playoffs, no. That division alone is 6 tough games. So I would even look at the division wins that DraftKings puts out and look at the under for that too. Because you got Miami, Buffalo, and the Jets. You might sneak 1 against Buffalo and split with them like you did last year. But Miami and the Jets are going to be difficult games for them to win. So.
Yeah, so strong lean to the under there. And yeah, it is a tough schedule. You'd think, coming after a 4-13 season, you might get lucky. It might be a little bit kind for you, but it's just not. And like I say, the strength of that division, the Jets are a completely different proposition, assuming Rodgers stays fit. And then, it is brutal. Coming over to London, it was a hot ticket. The Patriots Jaguars, it was real quick to start. I think it's the first time the Patriots have been to London for a little while now, I think. So, it was a hot ticket at Wembley. So that should be a great game against the Jaguars. Looking forward to having the Patriots over. Here, and that finishes the London series of games with the other 2 games over at Tottenham the 2 weeks before. But looking forward to having the Patriots over, and it's a tough one as expected. Division winners, conference winners, Super Bowl winners, long odds plus 2,200 or 22 to 1 for the division, plus 8,000 or 80 to 1 for conference winners, and plus 15,000 or 150 to 1 for your Super Bowl winner. So yes, it would certainly seem unlikely this time. Byron's had a quick look. Under 1.5 division wins, plus 110. Yeah,
I would strongly look at that because, like I said, the Jets with Rodgers, as you said, Paul, totally different animal.
Yeah.
I mean, they're much, much better with Aaron Rodgers than without him. Miami is they're just loaded. Now Odell Beckham's in Miami, so now they got 3 wide receivers that are going to be a headache for any team to cover in the NFL this year. And the Bills have Josh Allen and James Cook, and what they're going to be, we don't know, but they might be able to split with Buffalo 1-1. So,
what would success be for the Patriots in this year, Scott? What would you sort of say a successful season is for the Patriots in 2024?
I would say growth as the year goes on. I mean, you don't want to start out really good and then as the season goes on, tail off. You want to start off okay and get better and better as each game goes on. And I think if I'm Gerard Mayo, that's what I'm looking at. Let's get better each game. Let's take it one by one. I know Belichick was a stickler for it's a one-game season. We're on to the next team. But I think that's the way you got to be with the Patriots this year is Cincinnati comes week 1, you get through that game, then you're focused on Seattle. And you're just getting better. And Drake May in practice, if he gets better and is starting by week 7 or week 8 and he shows he's a competent NFL quarterback, I think the Patriots next season could, not this upcoming season, the following season, they could take a step forward and then take another step forward. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at AFC title game, AFC playoffs. I'm looking at just getting better as the year goes on.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I agree. That would be a sign of a good season, kind of some stability. You know, some green shoots for kind of 2025 onwards. Byron, Joe, I'll ask you to this question because we've put Scott through the ringer enough with the stats that we pulled out and some of the questions that we've asked him. If the wheels fell off, how bad could it get for the Patriots in 2024? Byron, Joe.
I mean, Drake May could look like a bust and they could go under 2 wins. Like, that's as bad as it can be, isn't it? I mean, that is as bad as it can be. If Drake May isn't a starting quarterback in the NFL, you know, if he's Zach Wilson, if he's, you know, Mac Jones, you know, that's maybe a bit disrespectful to Mac Jones, who had more competence than Zach Wilson, but I don't think Drake May is that. I will specify. I think Drake May is going to be just fine. But yeah, if they get to mid-season, 1-8, 1-7, and say, well, Drake May's time is here, and Drake May looks lost out there, and they're picking in the top 2 next year, top 3, it can be tough. You know, do you do a Josh Rosen and move on immediately? I think that's the absolute worst case scenario. I'm much more optimistic than that. I don't think that will be the case, but I think that is the worst case. Is Drake May looks lost in the decision to make at the draft next year, and they're in a position to do so would be the worst, I think.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I think with the draft, it doesn't sound like there's any. It's not an amazing quarterback draft. Obviously, they say that most years, and then suddenly it's like these are the next big quarterbacks. It feels like. But even if they get, you know, they get a high pick, because there's always teams who need quarterbacks. So if like May looks, you know, decent, it looks like the future, and you get, you know, you might get the first or second pick, then someone's always willing to trade, and then that's when they can start stocking up, and it's maybe getting the best offensive player on who's available, and start making it easier for Drake May to continue, because is he going to be one of them what elevates the team, or is he need someone where you need to build around him and actually have a number 1 wide receiver and have a good offensive line? And I think that you have to do that through the draft. So even if they do, they get a high pick next year, it might not be the worst thing in terms of, because what you don't want to happen if they win like 6 or 7 and then you're picking in like, you know, the teens, and then suddenly where you are then, where there's a few teams that just hang around, you're not quite sure what Drake May is. So you could just best stick with Brissett, get May and see how he looks, give him some confidence, and hopefully you do get a high draft pick so you can then push on future, because who really wants to go 6 and 7 and then not get that blue chip kind of player and get better as the years goes on? It's always that tricky position.
Yeah, Paul, to Joe's point, they can buy a full year with Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback and bring Drake May along slowly. Yeah. So that's the added bonus to having Jacoby Brissett, who's started in the NFL before, is if Drake May's having problems, okay, wait another couple games before you put him in the fire. So,
and especially with having a young head coach as well, where it's not like he's a head coach, if he has a bad year, is out. He's probably got this year to see how it goes, and if they go 2 or 3 wins, then he's definitely got another year. So it's not like he's going to be under pressure to save his job. It doesn't feel like
exactly.
Excellent. That brings us to the end of our look at the Patriots. Scott, we thank you as always. Thanks for another appearance on Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. And everyone, make sure you'll give Scott a follow at SJCobe1. Also, the LTS channel over on YouTube, Let's Talk Sports. give that a follow. I know kind of Tanner's looking to kind of get things going again from a LTS perspective. I think we'll try and play more of a part as well, and help out with things on Let's Talk Sports as well over the coming months. But yeah, Scott, good luck for the season. Fingers crossed that you get the things that you're after, and get that kind of those green shoots for 2025 and beyond.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. We're going to move on and take a look at the New York Jets. Joining us for the New York Jets, we have got our guest, who is the International Fan of the Year for the New York Jets. He was out in Detroit. He made a draft pick for the New York Jets. We've got Frazer Campbell, Scotland's very own Frazer Campbell, is going to be joining us as we take a look at the Jets. Thanks again to Scott Cobe there for the review on the Patriots. We've moved on to the New York Jets, the final team we're going to look at in the AFC East for our preview. And we've got a very, very special guest. In fact, so special, they were the International Fan of the Year in 2023 for the New York Jets. We're joined by Frazer Campbell. Frazer, thanks for coming on Good Teams Win Great Teams Cover. It's great to have you on to preview the Jets. How's everything going?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to come on. Yeah, everything's been good. I've been busy at work. I've recently just had a promotion, so I've been non-stop revising for some courses I have to do. So it's been a bit hectic, to be honest.
A busy man. Promotion at work, dashing over to Detroit to make draft picks for his NFL team.
What, 2024?
There, Frazer. I mean, you're International Fan of the Year, which is how I kind of got to, become aware of you and see. I saw that on Twitter a few months ago. You helped us out with our Fans on the Clock draft pick for the Jets as well. But yeah, how was that? Talk to us about that experience of being named like the International Fan of the Year. You do a lot of work, obviously, with Gangrene UK. So go give at gang_green UK a follow on Twitter if you're a Jets fan or not, because it's cool just to follow all the UK fan groups. But yeah, how did that come about, and kind of how was it for you to be named International Fan of the Year for the New York Jets?
Yeah, it was such a surreal experience, to be honest. I never ever thought that that would be something that I would win personally. There's so many other Jets fans in the UK and even in Germany and places like that that do so much for the team and the fan bases that I think it took a while to sink in, to be honest, when it was announced. But yeah, it's obviously it's a proud moment to be announcing, especially being the first ever time they've done it. So, it's obviously a great honour, and no matter what you've done for your fan group and things like that, it's a great honour.
Yeah, it's such a cool thing. Alexi to the first as well, in the first batch from it. It's really, really cool thing to happen. As a result, you were able to go to and attend the draft in Detroit and make a draft pick for the New York Jets up on the podium. How was that experience of kind of going to Detroit, attending the draft, and then making the pick for your team?
Yeah, obviously it was amazing. It's hard because I've never been to a draft before in any capacity. So obviously, for years and years, my kind of draft weekend was to watch the film Draft Day on the draft day, and then obviously watch the draft. That was kind of my routine and had always been routine. So it was a bit like, I'm actually going to be there. How am I going to stick to this routine of watching this film and watching it on telly? I'm actually going to be there. So how am I going to watch this film? But, being there is absolutely incredible experience. I'd recommend it for anybody just to even be there as a normal fan. And amongst it all, the atmosphere, everything about it was unbelievable. Obviously going in, I kind of knew what the plan was for the 3 or 4 days of the draft. But there was obviously a lot of surprises mixed in as that as well. So going into it, I was unsure what to expect. But yeah, the NFL and the Jets especially, they treated me really well. Everything was like a VIP experience. It was, getting to meet players and people involved in the NFL community that you don't ever see on telly. You never think you'd meet was unbelievable. And it's when you're there, I think the emotions and the adrenaline, you don't really have time to take it all in. It just happens so fast that, it's not until you actually leave and you hit reality again back home that you think, wow, I've just I've just done that, which was, it was, even thinking about it now, like it's just an unbelievable experience.
Yeah. And your pick, Frazer, was it Isaiah Davis, am I remembering correctly?
It was, yeah.
So do you have like a special investment now in his career, I'm sure,
Yes, obviously I'm going to have some sort of, connection to that. I've reached out to him. He's reached out to me on social media and things, and really says that hopefully we'll get to meet up in London, and then I'm going back over to New York in November for a game, so hopefully get to meet up there as well. I've been speaking to him and Tyler Conklin, because Tyler Conklin was the one that announced me as the winner when it was announced. So obviously I have a good connection with him now and speak to him quite a lot on Instagram and stuff. So the Isaiah Davis pick was, it was really amazing to be able to do it. I had all these plans when I went on stage, what I was going to say, how I was going to do it, and as soon as I got on stage, everything just goes blank. 175,000 people in front of me, and it felt like the moment I got to the mic that there was nobody in front of me. It was just like it went just like black. Like you couldn't see anybody, you couldn't think of anybody in front of you. So it was obviously a nerve-wracking experience, but at the same time, obviously an experience that not many people get to do. So it's just a shame. I think they cut their commercial break during my pick on the UK link on like the Sky Sports thing. So it wasn't on, but I know there was 2 networks in the US that were still showing it. So I managed to get all the clips, and the Jets have passed it on and things like that. So it was a scary but really, really good experience.
Yeah, we got to see it on Twitter. Like, I think the day after I saw it, or the morning after, I guess. It awesome. Frazer made sure he got the Jets in there as well during the pick, which was awesome.
I was going to say, whatever nerves you had, it didn't show. You nailed it. It was great.
Yeah, it was really good. It was quite good because I think the video that was kind of getting shown everywhere and the Jets shared was my wife that recorded it. So it was quite good that she, kind of had the initiative, record this, and you've got that for the future for yourself. But I didn't think that would be the actual main video that we'd get. But it was really good.
Yeah, it was class. Yeah, awesome. And just like, it's real place to see, guys, from seeing the kind of growing the gangrene UK stuff and stuff like that. It's great to see someone so invested and passionate and committed to kind of growing support. And it's not just the support for the Jets as a result, it's the game in the UK as a result. You've had a part to play in that, and it's great to kind of see that recognition. And it's just really, really cool. And I think it was saying it wasn't just like in terms of UK guys that were there as well.
Yeah.
Pretty sure the Lions was the chairman guy for the Lions. How was meeting Captain Duval, by the way? He's someone we've reached out to try and get on the podcast. I think he's a bit big time. He's a bit big time for us now.
I mean, if you just want to get him on, I could easily hook you up. I speak to the UK guys most days. Actually, we're chatting still. We've got a good WhatsApp group going between a lot of us. Obviously, had the Packers fan, Dan, who he got selected. You also had the Bears fan, James, got selected, and obviously the Lions fan, Ryan, who I became really, really good friends with actually out of everybody. And obviously you had Captain Duval, and then you had the Raiders fan. So we've all kept in contact. We're all planning on meeting up again. I think that was probably the best part of the experience. I was getting to meet fans from other teams, and they were talking to me about what they've done for the NFL as a whole. There's the Raiders fans done a lot in the kind of disabled side of it for wheelchair football and things, and it's good to see what other people are doing and to become good friends with them, and not just the UK guys, like meeting people from Germany, Mexico. The overall winner for the inaugural actual NFL fan of the year was the young guy from Mexico. He's a Dallas Cowboys fan, and honestly hearing his story and what he's been through in his life and what he's done for American football, where he lives, and for the kids and that, it was unbelievable hearing some of what people have done, and it kind of made me think, wow, like I'm in amongst this, but I don't feel deserving of it. But it's so good to meet all them, and I mean, even off the back of that, I got to meet the actual domestic fan of the year for the Jets, and we became really good friends with her and her husband. We were planning on meeting them in November again, and then off the back of that, getting added to an actual NFL fan of the year's Facebook group where it had all the American people over the years that have won it overall, and it's such a good community now to be involved in, and so many connections with other people, and it's just going to grow the sport, I think, overall.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, congratulations once again, Frazer. And yeah, it's so glad you've kind of been able to kind of have an amazing experience off the back of it. It's really, really cool. Let's talk some Jets then. That's why we're here, right? Let's talk some New York Jets. We've got Joe. We've got our the third host of Good Teams and Great Teams cover has just been jumping on and sitting in the background. So we'll add him. Quick introduction: Joe Frazer, Joe. But yeah, let's talk about the Jets. We'll pop it up on the screen. Let's talk about 2023. A rough one. A lot of optimism going into 2023. Didn't quite work out that way. Finished 7-10 for third in the AFC East. Super Bowl aspirations ended after Aaron Rodgers getting injured on night one. Drive one, night one. Night one, drive one. After the fourth play, tearing his Achilles. No real plan B, but a number of young players stepped up, showing a bright future for the New York Jets. Missed out on the playoffs for the 13th year. It's the longest it's the longest active playoff drought in the league and possibly across the top four sports. How would you sum up, Frazer, kind of 2023 for the Jets?
I think the only way you can sum it up is it's a typical Jets season. In all honesty, you have a great off season, which we seem to do every single year. With the expectations that this is the time, this is our time, and then something happens, whether it's injuries across the offense, the defense. Obviously, last year Rodgers was a big part of that. It was just sad not getting to see what actually the offense could be like with Rodgers. I've got my opinions on what Zach Wilson was like, and I thought I knew what he'd be like, and I think as soon as Rodgers went down, I think secretly every Jets fan knew that was the playoff chance he's gone. I think, especially not going out and getting a proper veteran quarterback to come in there and try and lead this team. It was just, I'd say overall it was just a typical Jets season, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's rough, isn't it? I think a lot of people in the NFL, analysts and things like commentating, we certainly did about it, kind of how we felt that not getting in the backup and just sticking with Zach Wilson could be problematic and possibly was negligent from GM, coach, whatever combination you want to look at it. But, it's happened. They've hopefully learned from that, and into 2024 we go. Byron, do you want to move on? Let's have a look at the off-season headlines. Getting the gang back together. Last chance saloon. Joe wrote this. Last chance saloon for everyone. Wilson floats out the building to Denver. Is that Wilson gone? Headlines, if you want to say them, whether they're just media or not, but Rodgers missing some of the workouts in the last few weeks. Upgrade the O-line, though, which was obviously had been problematic, and hopefully start protecting Aaron Rodgers a little bit more. Not a little bit more, but the O-line's been it's been a bit of a struggle for a little while. Where are you, Frazer, in kind of, it feels like this is, particularly for Salah, this feels like it has to go well this year. Is that fair? Do you see that internally from the Jets in terms of he's maybe on the hot seat, or do you think he might have a little bit more time?
I think he's got to be on the hot seat now. The reality is you have to win games. Regardless of your excuses, you have to win games. There's a lot of rumours that come out of the Jets. People saying one thing, people saying another thing. I think if he could get anywhere close to the playoffs this year and keep a healthy enough team, then potentially I could see him getting a bit longer just to build it one more year. But he's definitely got to be on the hot seat. The one thing I'll say is I thought he was going to go at the end of last season. I thought that was his time. I thought potentially he was gone. And personally, I kind of wanted it. But when you sit back and look at it and think of what he's done for the defensive side, it's easy to say, the offense has really struggled and the defense has been unreal, and give Jeff Ulbrich a lot of credit for that. But at the end of the day, it is Salah's defense. He's the one that's putting everything he wants into that, and Jeff's just doing what he says, most likely. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a tough season for him if he struggles, and there'll be calls for him to go. I've kind of found a bit of a new respect for Salah, because when I was at the draft, I spent the first night with his brother. He was standing beside us in the inner circle with the 12 fans that were there. So him and his partner were there. So I got to know him quite well, and to be honest, changed my opinion on Salah, because I was wanting him gone, and then after speaking to his brother, and you kind of get a real insight of what he's like and how much he actually loves the Jets. I don't know if you've ever heard the story about Salah's brother was involved in 9/11, so he was in one of the towers. So he was in the second tower that got hit. So I think he's actually seen the plane hit the first tower. And there was a big story about how Salah, when he got appointed the head coach of the Jets, how it was just perfect for him because of his story with his brother. When you hear that story from his actual brother, and you can see that Salah loves the New York Jets. So fingers crossed that everything changes this year, because if it does, he's definitely could be the coach of the future for us anyway.
Excellent, good stuff. And yeah, like I say, feels like it's a lot of pressure this year. We'll see how it's going. Let's talk about a man that, the man that brings that added attention, Aaron Rodgers. How much are you reading into the fact that he's taken some time away to go and do whatever he ended up going doing, whatever events he was attending, ayahuasca retreats or whatever the hell it was. What do you read too much into that? Does it bother you as a fan that maybe he's not there when he should be there? If we're talking about kind of everything geared to winning a championship. How does it feel as a fan when you're kind of seeing those things?
To be honest, it didn't bother me. Once you get away from all the media talk and you actually look into it as a bigger picture, you start to understand that there's a lot of people out there that just want to post a lot of negativity because it's Aaron Rodgers, which is understandable. But at the same time, when you look into it, so this was a trip that had been pre-planned. Rodgers at the time didn't know the dates for the camp then, so it was unsure. He had informed the Jets already that he was going. He spent the whole of last off season. He was with the Jets every single minute. Of the off season, he was with the Jets. He was at voluntary camp to start with 3-4 weeks before, which nobody mentions. He was there when he didn't have to be. Bear in mind that I don't think he ever really done it with the Packers. So I personally, I don't read too much in it. I think it was another case of, and I seen a lot of this last year, so a lot of Robert Saleh's press conferences and things that he said, he didn't exactly word them very well, and it always kind of came out different in the media. And I think that was a prime example. The question was asked about Rodgers. Saleh answered it in a way that was straight away took like, oh, wait a minute, there could be an issue here. And I think that's what it all come down to. But in reality, I don't think it's anything, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think it is like you've already got the fact it's in New York already. The New York media just amplified with Aaron Rodgers. I'm agreeing with you. I don't. Look, Aaron Rodgers is what, 17, how many, 18, 19 years in, seasons in. He knows what he needs to do in the off-season. He knows what he needs to do to get ready. He's a 4-time MVP, for God's sake. It's like he knows what he needs to do to get ready in the off-season, so you just trust him to do it. Let's have a look at free agency in the draft then. I think, free agency in the first round of the draft was very, geared to look at getting some replacements in on this offensive line and bolstering it. Do you think they've done enough O-line wise to make that a real strength now, Frazer?
Again, it comes down to how healthy everybody's going to be. I think the big question going into the season will be the health of Vera Tucker. He's had 2 bad injuries now, 2 years in a row, both against Denver at Denver, so clearly doesn't like their field. I think a lot of it will come down to him being healthy, because when he's healthy and on it, he's a Pro Bowl caliber player. There's no doubt about it. It's just a shame he's been getting moved to tackle a lot when he's an unbelievable guard, and that's probably not helped his situation. But I think when you add in that we got Fash in the draft and what we added in free agency, I think there's enough there. It's definitely better than what we've had in many, many years for sure. Obviously, there's a bit of an age worry there with Moses and Smith, but everybody knows if Smith can play even 13 games in the regular season and be healthy for the off season, if we get there into the postseason, if we get there, that's kind of what you're aiming for. And Moses, he's old, yes, but he's never really shown any serious injuries. He's a reliable player. I think that personally I've done enough. I've not seen enough of John Simpson to really comment on him at guard, but from all accounts, what I've heard is he's good enough. I mean, he can't be any worse than what Lakin Tomlinson was for us anyway. So it's definitely an upgrade. So yeah, I think as a whole on the line, I think we've definitely improved. Again, Rodgers is going to change that. It's hard to tell with a line when you've got someone like Rodgers behind that line. He's played with some bad players over the years and he can do things. So yeah, it's all going to come down to Rodgers at the end of the day as well, I think.
Yeah, it's a great part about Tyron Smith. So both me and Byron are Cowboys fans, and just real frustrating that the one thing is not being able to kind of stay fit and healthy, because 17 games out of Tyron Smith, you've got one of the best left tackles in the NFL. Even despite the age, he's still a beast. And I think what a great person to have around Olu-Fashanu, Tyron Smith, and help develop him and bring him along. I think that's a big move for kind of Fashanu's development. And there's not many better people to learn from than Tyron Smith for sure. Byron, any shout outs for the key moves from the Jets? Who you liking most?
Not especially, no. I think really just adding that, like, kind of Frazer's touched on it, but like the O-line has to improve just through pure numbers to a degree. Like, there's a lot of just professional bodies there, and Fashanu's obviously a real high upside tackle who, could be set for, the next 5-6 years at least. I think they've done a real solid job. I think, again, it's a real obvious caveat. Outside of the quarterback, I think, I forgot the GM's name now, Frazer, you can remind me. Douglas has done a really solid job around the quarterback. And it does ultimately come down to, if Aaron Rodgers stays fit, I mean, Spot's jumping ahead a little bit here, but I have the Jets winning the division because I think Aaron Rodgers will stay fit. I had them winning the division last year as well, because the defense and everything else, I mean, the line obviously was an issue last year as well, but I agree, a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, who's such an old head, it's different having a bad O-line in front of Aaron Rodgers than it is having a bad O-line in front of Zach Wilson, because Aaron Rodgers knows how to get you out of bad plays. Zach Wilson, I don't think does, and I don't think he ever probably will. And just kind of on that note, Frazer, who do you think, if you had to pick one, like non-quarterback, not Aaron Rodgers, because that is such an easy one, I guess, like the X factor player for the Jets this season, of like, if this player is all we think he will be, is like the success of the Jets this year?
I think 100% it would be Breece Hall, without a doubt. He's unbelievable run. But to think that, he nearly had, if it wasn't for Salah messing up the numbers in the last game, he was a 1,000-yard running back behind that line with Zach Wilson as your running back, going 3 and out all the time, constantly every game, not scoring points. I think there was like 6, 7, 8 games where we were under 10 points scored in offense. So to get the numbers coming back off a serious injury the year before was unbelievable. And I think he's definitely your X factor on offense, especially, and defense. To be honest, defense what it is. Personally, I think the defense is upgraded from last year, and they're probably if not the best defense in the league. All round, absolutely solid. So I think you've got to look at offense for that X factor, and to me, it's definitely Breece Hall.
Yeah, and I love you mentioned obviously the defense there as well, around obviously how stacked it is. I think what another mentioned about how good Tyron Smith could be for Olu-Fashanu, how good Hassan Reddick could be for last year's first-round pick, Will McDonald. Again, just having those players who are so experienced, been there, done it, and can just take these youngsters to an absolute another level. Like Will McDonald, there is his physical freak, really just is. I still love the video from draft night of him where you see him just like leaping over cars. It's ridiculous. But yeah, just
that was the same as Frazer's draft weekend, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think I've seen a video or two of Frazer leaping over cars in Detroit. But yeah, just want to again just develop, and he's got the physical tools, but just the little nuanced bits, the little bits that take you far as a pro. And I think that that's somebody Will McDonald can really learn from. Over the course of interesting. I just wanted to ask you about Jordan Travis. Was taken in the 5th round. So had a real good year Florida State, broke his leg, unfortunately, towards the end of the season, and there's the whole furore around Florida State not getting in the college football playoff. He's an interesting one for me. Is this one maybe that they feel that can develop for a couple of years, and could he be the one to take over when Rodgers, let's face it, he's not long left, has he? But is he one that we could see in a couple of years' time come through when Rodgers goes?
Yeah, 100%. I think when you look at the quarterbacks that were available in this draft and some of the talent that was there, and to get him where we got him, I think whether he pans out or not for what he's going to be right now is an absolute steal, without a doubt. I went into the draft and, there was 2 players that I was banging on the table for pre-draft. There was only 2 players that I really wanted to pick up. I was unsure in the first round because we could have went wide receiver, tackle, could even have went Bauer. So it was tough for the first round. I just wanted the best player available that's going to help the offense of some sort. But the 2 players that I desperately wanted was Jordan Travis and Braylon Allen, and we ended up walking away with both of them, which was amazing. And pre-draft, I'd done a competition on Gangrene UK, and it was, everybody knew I was doing a pick. So it was like, right, Frazer's going to be doing a pick at the draft. There's a competition. I was going to pick up a draft hat at the draft, a New York Jets draft hat. And the prize was, if you guess who I draft, that's who you could earn me a chance of winning this cup. So it was all over Twitter, Facebook, etc. So a lot of people were going for Jordan Travis and Braylon Allen. When the pick for the Jets come up, we got to know about 10 selections before the pick. They'd come down, grab us and say, right, let's go, we're going up behind. And then they'd go through the process, and then they'd show you how the picks were selected. They'd show you them on the screen, how it was done. So it was quite interesting to see all that. So I was sitting there obviously sweating all that day, waiting to go up. And I obviously noticed Jordan Travis was still available. So I was thinking, this is going to be amazing if I get to draft Jordan Travis. He could take over from Rodgers, could end up being an absolute superstar in the future. It's ideal scenario to be known as the person who drafted him. So get up behind the back of the stage, and everyone was explained. So at the time, the Jets had pick 173 and 178, I think it was. So as far as I was aware, I was doing 173. Which was like 5 or 6 picks after I was due up there. So I'm sitting in a waiting room being told, we'll come get you just the pick before it's announced and you can go up. So I'm still thinking, right, Jordan Travis's name's not been announced. There's TV and the screen and everything, you can watch it. Still not been announced, stop being announced. Jets have traded up. I'm sitting there, Jets are on the clock, and I'm like, because I didn't know what they had traded at first. So I didn't know if they'd traded the pick that I was due to do, which would have threw it all out because I wouldn't be able to do the 173 pick because I thought they traded that for the 171. And it turns out I seen the clock and the Jets still had 173. I was literally sitting there praying, please, 171, please don't pick Jordan Travis because it's pick. And it wasn't me, it was just the random guy who was doing the picks for anybody. It never had anybody there to do it. And he announced Jordan Travis, and I remember sitting in the waiting room thinking, damn, devastated. that should have been, if the Jets had hopefully waited to 173, that would have been the pick. But don't get me wrong, obviously I'm very happy to pick who I picked, and that won't change. But yeah, there was a bit of I think it threw everybody's chances of winning the draft cap off, which was such a shame. But yeah, I think he's got high potential. Obviously there's some sort of injury history there and a concern, but he's learning behind Rodgers. He's not coming in to start straight away. Even if Rodgers gets injured, you've got Taylor's taking over. It's not going to be Travis. So yeah, the future looks good for him. So yeah, just fingers crossed. It's about time we had a quarterback that we drafted that does well, to be honest.
Yeah, that would be nice. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Jordan Travis, and yeah, it's a couple of incredible years. Florida State to finish off. So yeah, we'll see. It's certainly one to watch for. Byron, should we have a quick look at the future odds, not just the future in general? The Vegas set the line for wins for the Jets at 9.5, so you can get over his odds on at -160, under +130, so just a little bit more than even money. How do you think the Jets can get to 10 wins, Frazer, or do you think which side of that over at that 9.5 do you think they'll be on, over or under?
I mean, when you look at last season, like the wins that we had with what we had, there's no reason why we can't get to 10 wins in reality. You know, we were so bad in offense for so many games, you know, and just having, I read a stat somewhere, I can't remember, and it said that if Jets had the league average in offense, they'd have won like 12 games last season, league average. And I think we can easily get to 10. You know, we've got quite a good schedule this year. And finally, for once, we've actually got, you know, it's set up for us quite well. Usually we have a horrid start. Like last season, we had the Eagles, Bills, there's so many good teams. I can't remember, Cowboys maybe. Yeah. We had so many good teams in the first 6 games, and it was like, we could go 0-6 straight away here. And we actually went, I think it was 3-3, and we were like, what? How have we done that? So yeah, I think the teams that we're playing this year is favourable. Obviously, every year teams do well. It's not expected, but yeah, I can't see why we can't get to 10 wins if obviously Rodgers stays healthy.
Excellent. And yeah, I mean, look, and then as a result, if you get 10 wins, you'll surely break the streak and make the playoffs. Odds on to make the playoffs at -170. To not make the playoffs 140. Again, just over even money. So close, but certainly favoured by the odds makers to make the playoffs. To win the division, +220 or just over 2-1. To win the conference, win the AFC and get to the Super Bowl, 12-1 or +1200, depending how you like your odds. And then to win the Super Bowl, +2500, 25-1. For you, for Frazer, how far can the Jets go this year?
It's a tough one. I want them to get to the playoffs. It's, you know, like not being able to sit through playoff football, supporting your team is every year. It's soul destroying. You know, my wife's a big Eagles fan, and every year I have to sit there and watch, you know, the Eagles compete. And don't get me wrong, you know, as soon as the Jets are out and the Eagles are competing, I have a bit of a soft spot for them, obviously, because I want them to do well for my wife. But yeah, it's getting to the point now where it's just like, right, this has to change. Like, you can't keep going through it every single year, not being able to even make the playoffs, you know. And it's like the Patriots are the worst they've been for a long time. The Bills, personally, I think have got worse this year again. But obviously, they always seem to do something. But I think their time and their chance of going all the way is slowly coming to an end. So if there's ever a chance, this is a chance, especially with Miami going to be paying, I think they have extended to, I can't remember. Anyway, paying a quarterback big money. This is a chance to take advantage of that. And, you know, it has to be now. I don't want another reset again, because Jets and resets just don't work.
Yeah. Well, look, fingers crossed. You know, it'd be nice to see that streak broken. And you know, and to break it, we saw kind of probably the last team to kind of break one of those long streaks was the Bills. I think, you know, in terms of getting to the playoffs. So hopefully it happens for the Jets this year, Frazer. Best of luck for the season. Just before we wrap up, just give us a shout out. Where can we follow Gangrene, and kind of what stuff have you guys got going on?
Yeah, so you can follow Gangrene. We've obviously got a Twitter and an Instagram. I think you've got the link there at the bottom, across the bottom. Gangrene UK. Our Twitter is quite active, but our main page, we've got a private Facebook page for any Jets fans that want to join us. You can just find us by searching Gangrene UK, or message the page on Twitter, or message myself on Twitter. We've got quite a bit going on, obviously, with the London game come up. We're kind of trying to plan everything now. We've got a few talks with the Jets themselves. I've been speaking to Conklin and things about maybe getting them to an event on the Saturday before the game. Obviously, last time I had a game in London, we managed to get Nick Mangold there and had a big event with Nick Mangold, so which was really good, and it was all organised by our group. So yeah, hopefully we'll get something organised and it'll be out there on our socials as soon as we've kind of got it sorted. Yeah.
Awesome, good stuff. We have a great time. You mentioned earlier when that you're off before we start recording that you're off to New York in November. So have a great time there as well. And thanks for coming on. We appreciate it, Frazer. Thank you very much. And we're going to wrap up our episode. And myself, Byron, and Joe, we're just going to take a look at our best bets for the AFC East to wrap everything up.
Cheers, Frazer.
Thank you.
Final part of the episode. We're on our podium bets. We're going to look at our futures that we like right now. We're not nailed down, being stuck to these ones and being held accountable completely for these ones yet. You'll have to tune in September when we do the full futures episode. But this is what we're liking so far. So we can take a look at. We've got 3 bets each: a gold, silver, bronze, in honor of it being an Olympic year. So gold, the one we like the most; silver, the next best; and bronze, the least of the 3 that we like, but still fancy. Let's get them bad boys. Oh, I can't have said that. Let's get them put up on the screen. Joe just like blanked out completely on his picture there as well, so I don't know if we've still got him, but we'll work around it.
I can share my screen if we need to.
If you don't mind, Byron. Thanks. So just quick shout out and thanks to all the guests so far. Thanks to Matt from the UK Bills. Thanks to Scott Cobe from Let's Talk Sports for the Patriots preview. And thanks to Frazer. All the guests were awesome, but how cool was Frazer? It was great to hear his story. Just about his experience as the Jets International Fan of the Year and his trip to Detroit for the draft. I can't see Frazer when he's in the Spurs Stadium when Isaiah Davis scores a touchdown, being like nudging the person next to him, going, "I drafted that guy."
Oh.
Right, we've got Joe sharing the screen at least, even though we don't think we've got him on audio or video for now. I think it's mine first, Joe, that are up. So we'll start with my. I'll go, bronze, silver, gold. The one that I do fancy, but maybe the least of the 3. Fraser talks about Breece Hall being the X factor for the Jets. Breece Hall most rushing yards, 8-1. He got just short of 1,000 yards in that team last year. That wasn't particularly poor offensively. I think the formula could be for the Jets to run the ball quite a lot, and we saw in his first year, and before his injury, he was going at 5.5 yards a carry. That's a pretty good clip to go if you're going to get the ball 300 plus times. You might have a chance of getting up somewhere near 1,500 yards, which will put you in the mix for most rushing yards. So 8-1 or plus 800, I like that. We talked with Scott about how bad the Patriots offense would be, how it was last year. Should be better. The fact you'd be going probably with Jacoby Brissett early on in the season, and possibly transitioning to Drake May. But I still just don't think they've got a lot of weapons. I think putting points up is going to still be difficult for New England. So Patriots to score the fewest points in the regular season at plus 350 or 7-2. And then the bet that I like the most in the AFC East is the Jets over 9.5 wins. So to get to 10 wins, plus 130. I think they're going to break the playoff drought. I think Rodgers is going to be good. He's going to be fit. He's going to be healthy. And I think he can lead them to 3 more wins than he did last year, minimum. Thoughts, gents, on my gold, silver, and bronze bets?
I like all of them, truthfully. I love Breece Hall. Last year was one of my favorite profit makers, and picking him to hit overs and picking him to be rushing leader of the week. 8-1, as most rushing yards in the league certainly sounds reasonable. I think with that defense, I don't think they want to lean on Aaron Rodgers passing the ball all day. I think they want to, they'll be happy winning close games because that defense is really good. So they don't need to be airing the ball out. And a lot of that means Breece Hall is going to dominate. We'll see what I think of the Patriots very soon on my bets. I certainly feel that's a nice bet, plus 350. It's a little shortish price for a long season like that, but their offense is terrible on paper. I mean, a lot of pieces that might be good in the future, the receivers and Drake May, but I think it's going to be a rough 2024. And I have the Jets winning the division, I think, with 12 wins. So, I love that over 9.5 as well.
Yeah, I like the Patriots one. I probably got a similar bet. And I was going to go Breece Hall, most rushing and receiving yards, but I saw that you went for that one, so I went away from it. And it feels like it's all to do with McCaffrey. If McCaffrey doesn't have as big a season, then it's up for grabs for quite a lot of running back. So I think that's a strong bet.
Nice. Appreciate it. Awesome. Nice feedback for those bets. Good. Byron, let's see yours.
So, Patriots got a few points in the regular season. Felt like we're kicking them when they've been down already. And we are recording on July 4th, so a great day to kick the Patriots, I guess. Bad day to be British. But I'm going 0-17, which thankfully someone's pointed out to me before I place this bet, Joe, and get 3,500 on Bet365. So shop around always. I just went through their season, and it's rough. I really struggle to find where I would have. I don't think they're going to be favoured in the game, truthfully. I think they're going to be, behind the 8 ball an awful lot of the season. They might squeak out a win or 2 here or there, but their over-under, I think, is 4.5. It's hard to see them getting to 5. I'd feel pretty good that they're going to have the worst record in football. Unless Drake May does come out like CJ Stroud and is a franchise changer. And he could be, but I don't think he's going to start the season anyway. I think he's going to come in mid-season at earliest. So, yeah, I just think it's going to be another rough year in Foxborough, certainly. And 0-17 at 3,500, I think, it's a great bet because I don't think they're favoured once. Another long shot, 1,800. Dolphins to win all the regular season home games. The only one I think that, they're going to play the Jets at home, obviously, who I think are a good team. The Bills are always a trouble. And they play the 49ers at home near the end of the season. Other than that, I think they're going to be pretty heavily favoured in all their home games. I think they can certainly beat the Jets and the Bills at home. And they can beat the 49ers. They probably won't be heavily favoured to do so. It could be a pick'em game. But I think they're going to be in a position where they're going to need to win all their home games, or certainly a vast majority of them, to compete because they've got a tough road schedule. So, again, at 1,800, I just think it's a really nicely priced bet, especially early in the season. To start out with 3 or 5 home games, it's hard to go down to Miami if you're not used to playing the Miami humidity and the heat and turn it on. So I think they're going to get off to a hot start at home. And yeah, I have them winning all their home games at 1,800, 18-1. And then my favourite bet of the season in the AFC East is Jalen Waddle over 1,000.5 receiving yards. Over 1,000 receptions would be bold. Minus 110. He's hit this number in all 3 of his seasons. I think Jalen Waddle truthfully only gets better. He's obviously the number 2 to Tyreek Hill, but that hasn't really restricted him. If Tyreek Hill misses a game or two as well, Jalen Waddle goes off. Every time Hill's out the lineup, he goes off. I think he's one of them. Maybe underrated is a bit of a bold call. I don't think anyone thinks he's bad, but I think if Tyreek Hill wasn't there and they had a good number 2, I think Jalen Waddle would be an absolutely fine number 1 receiver. I think he's a top 15 receiver in the NFL. I just think he's really, really special. And again, the way the Dolphins play, quick release, get that on the field quick, it suits him absolutely perfectly. Loved him coming out. I've loved him the entire time he's been in the NFL. He's always got over 1,000 yards all 3 of his seasons so far. I've seen no reason to think that he wouldn't this year.
Excellent. Yeah, good run. I love him particularly. I love the Dolphins to run the table at home. Isn't it a real interesting one? I think it's a good price as well. I think 18's on the real good price. So, yeah. Joe, thoughts on Byron's podium bets?
Yeah, like them all, especially like the odds and with the pay. I think we talked about the Patriots schedule with Scott, that it is brutal and how that team's looking. It's not a bad price. Like I said, plus 3,500 on Bet365 is, yeah, you could win some decent money. But yeah, all the other ones, I looked at Waddle one as well. I'll see how much he would be for the leading receiver in the season. I know you have Hill, but it might be his breakout if he can be a breakout. Because he'll be taking over the number 1 eventually, I'm guessing, and with that big contract, see how that goes.
Nice. There was one, I think just the odds are too short, but just one shout out. It's Jacoby Brissett to be starting quarterback week 1 for the Patriots. That's a market of Bet365 run. It's heavily odds on, but we spoke to Scott, we've seen it enough. I think that's the path they're going to go. So you could lay big on that, and unless a freak injury, unless he gets injured now in the run up to, because I don't think May's going to beat him out in training camp, the starting job immediately. I don't think he's going to be that good, and I don't think that's the plan with him. That unless Brissett gets injured, he's going to be the starting quarterback week 1, and a couple of months you get your money back.
Yeah,
nice profit. Right, Joe, let's hit yours.
Cool. Yeah, so I've gone for
right on cue.
Yeah, some similar ones. So I've got the Dolphins to score most team points in the regular season. So the opposite to what Paul went with the Patriots, and they're plus 1,100. So last year they were second, just behind the Cowboys by, I think it was like 10 points. And I think they're going to have a similar season where they're going to win big at home and hopefully down the stretch score some more points. I think they're the 4th or 5th favourite for this year. So I thought at them odds, it's a good chance because they are, the track stars. They're going to put up points with all the players they've got, especially at home. So I did like them odds. My silver, I went with Dalton Kincaid over 750.5 receiving yards. I feel like he's going to be the main target for Josh Allen this year. I think they're going to target him a lot, and he had a great year last year, and I think he's going to go strength for strength. So I think with how many yards that is, I feel like, yeah, he's going to get targeted quite a lot, especially with their wide receivers. They're not having a true number 1, it feels like. So he could be their number 1. And finally, like we touched on, I've got Drake May under 2,425.5 passing yards. I think he's going to start. I'd be surprised if he starts over 10 games. So I was just trying to work out from that. So if he does start 10, is he really going to get over 250 a game? I think he's going to struggle in it. Quite a lot of them. They have such a weak wide receiver core, and even if he does get in early, I can see it being a year where he might play a few games and then he comes back out to give, Jacoby comes back in and it's going to be a turnover. So, like I said, I think he'll start about 8 or 9 games max, depending how, injuries and everything like that. And, is actually going to get that many yards per game, because I feel like it's going to be a struggle again. And if they obviously go 0-17, I'd be shocked if he gets that many yards. So, yeah, fingers crossed. And that's plus 100. So that's evens for Drake May to be under that target.
Yeah. But yeah, I love that Drake May bet. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah, I think
can't see him coming in and say, playing more than 10 games. I think they're going to take their time with him. They know there's no rush. Jacoby Brissett is fine. Like we said, he's solid, sort of starting quarterback. He'll do okay. They're not expecting to win many games, so I don't think, even if Brissett even if they went 0-6, 0-7, there's not a massive clamour to go get May in. I don't think they're not in that position. So, yeah, like that. Love that.
And the first 7 games are rough, but the 7th ones is when they're playing Jacksonville. So I'll be curious to see if they just stick with Brissett to get through that first 6, which are tough teams, and then maybe think, well, after London, that's when we might bring him in then, and then he has 10 games. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. It's just they don't have their bye week after London, do they? They have their bye weeks later on. It's 14, yeah. Interesting. Right. Any other thoughts, Byron, on Joe's bets?
No, I like them all, yeah. I think Kincaid down the stretch especially was, I'm not sure if he became the number 1 target, but he was certainly featured really heavily. 750 is not a huge line to get to, like you mentioned, and I absolutely love that gold bet. You don't really see a path to Drake May hitting it, so I think that's a really strong one, yeah.
Awesome, right. That's us done with the AFC East, chaps. Shout out to our 3 awesome guests, Matt, Scott, Frazer. It was a pleasure having you on. As always, go drop us a follow. Good Teams and Great Teams cover over on Spotify to be notified of new episodes when they drop. Give us a follow on YouTube, Instagram, X, Twitter, and TikTok at GTW_GTC. All the other content that we've got coming out. We'll be back next week, and we're going to start with the NFC North. We're going to do the North divisions next. So the NFC North, and then the week after AFC North. So we've got some great guests lined up for that as well. So thanks very much, and we'll catch you next week.